Hey everybody, world's biggest geek here. My name is Kevin. Back another review here today, and I just saw the epic season finale of one of the best Star Wars shows, known as Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord. And my goodness gracious, guys, it was the best Star Wars show I've ever enjoyed. It was truly insane. It was wild. It was crazy. I was like, wow, like this show deserves 100 out of 100. Actor Sam portraying Darth Maul was the greatest. I was like, wow, like they really took this to the whole next level. They knew what they were doing. They studied and they said, let's just go down this way. Now, yes, Maul is not the good guy. He is still the villain, but when you learn more about why, because he's surviving due to the Order 66, what happened in episode 3, which now leads in episode 4, and knowing that all of this is all coming together. But further ado, let's get into it. So basically, the opening is that these outlaws were stealing credits from these crime lords. Like, okay. And so, the police are like, there's some, they robbed from one of these bank vaults that belonged to one of the crime lords. And so now they're robbing them. So like these outlaws, like, oh, who are they? And they say, oh, we have a disturbance in the sector. So, they say, freeze, put your hands in the air. So I guess what we should do as he says. And when you come down this incredible ship, Darth Maul comes down, taking on the law, knocking them out. And you're like, oh my gosh. So the credits that he stole from was Demas and Vario. So, Demas like, oh, who did this? And they say, oh, it's probably Vario, his territory. So Demas and Vario say, let's have a sit down. So, so you're like, okay, what's going on? Why are they having this sit down? But when you learn that, Maul was responsible. So, the bank one, like, oh, I'm not answering. Like, oh, you will do as we say. And they have this special meal. And Demas and Vario sit down. They say, oh, special delivery. And they open it. It was his bank droid's head. It's like, oh, you did this. And they're fighting in this abandoned plant. And, Vario kills Demas, because like because he's very small. So he had like this robot body and he killed him from behind. But then, you realize, oh, but, someone started all this. But then we come upon two new characters, Master Idaki and Devin. So like, they're like, they're people like begging on the street, like, oh, please help us. Please help us. They say no. So they walk away. And, Devin is like, Master, you have to eat. You have to eat. Like, so she takes something and she bumps into somebody. It's like, hey, you didn't pay for that. And they say, oh, Master Udaki's like, oh, she didn't know. She'll learn her lesson. I'll teach her a lesson. And they said, no, she has to be sent to processing. So as they go to the police station, we meet Captain Lawson, who is just a regular cop, trying to do his job, all this. But he starts investigating, like, oh, who would steal these credits? What's going on? And then we learn that that Maul is behind all this. So like, Captain Lawson's like, he has no idea what's going on. And, all this disturbance and these markings, where are they coming from? So they're on investigation. Then, then they learn, she doesn't talk. She's at the police station, like, oh, you need to send for processing. And Vario's like, oh, is your police station safe? They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. So, oh, who's going to kill you? No one's going to kill you. And as you learn, okay, fine. So now they're like, okay, Vario's getting scared. He's like, yo, y'all don't know Maul like I do. And so they shut down the power and they break into the police headquarters. They just like, Maul's like, shutting everything down. And like, Vario's like, oh, I know. I'll get you Dryden Voss. I'll give you Dryden Voss. He's like, fine. But then as they walk away, Maul senses this young girl. And he feels her presence, because now he feels that, oh, who is she? She's like some young kid. So she gets taken with Vario and they'd be sent to this underground bunker that is stationed in this planet. So now Vario and this girl, they're stuck here. They have no idea what's going on. But then all of a sudden, Devin, he's like, "Oh, I sense of you. You have this power. You're strong. You're something useful to me. I can make you my own." It's like, "No, I have a master." So she gets locked in this cage, but then she pushes her way out. And now you're like, "Oh, snap." She's like far powerful than anything that's ever been known. And you're like, okay, well now it's like, now Devin is a Jedi. She's powerful, she has her master, and she's been taught by the Force. But Maul's like, "I can train you." So as she escapes, he's like, he's pouring her tea, like, "Have some tea." She grabs his lightsaber and just like, she's like, "Ah, so you sense the way of the Force. What if I could teach you the ways of that you would never have been taught by your master?" So she escapes, like, "No, I don't want to fall for your tricks. I'm not after you." Then as Master Daki, he finds Devin. He's like, "Oh, where were you? Maul took me." So, Master Daki's like, "Maul is not our ally. Look, the enemy is our empire, but Maul will never be our ally." So now, like Two Boots is like, "Yo, we have to call the Empire's." Like, "No, I don't want the Empire involved with this. I can't have them in our territory." And all this, is like processing, he's like, "Who are you? What do you want?" And now they have to figure out that someone's behind, Maul's causing all of this. So now as we get more deeper, okay, now, Captain Lawson is now, he had like this distress call, and knowing that there was this abandoned place. And that's when you meet Maul. But also knowing that Master Daki, who, awesome character, by the way, was basically, they went to this abandoned place. And now, they're fighting Maul, and they're taking on his enemies and all that. And then, Two Boots is like, "Captain, I know you shut me down, which I forgive you, but you might want to forgive me for this." And all of a sudden, the Empire rolls in. And now the Empire, they're making martial law, they're making rules. Now they're sensing like, okay, yeah, Captain Lawson didn't turn off Two Boots, but he's like, "No, we can't get involved with the Empire. We don't know who this is." Because the Empire, like, they'll have martial law, they have control, they'll demand everybody to what to do. And now, now it's getting serious. The Empire's everywhere. And Maul, they're like, "My lord, we need to leave." They're securing the planet. So Devin and Master Daki, they tried to leave, because they're being, hidden. And then, of course, they do the trick, like, "You've already seen our identification. I've already seen your identification. You will let us go. I will let you go." And they say, "Hey, why didn't you check our identification?" "Well, I did." And so, of course, Master Daki and Devin are now fugitives. They're running on the law. They're hiding. And now they're hiding at Captain Lawson's house. It's like, "Look, I don't want to get involved with this stuff. You guys are not doing anything that I want. Please do not give my family interest." Like, "Look, we just need your help. We need a place to hide. We need to get out of the city." So now, Captain Lawson's like, "All right, fine. Well, I'll let you stay here, but you guys can't involve me and my son." But then you learn that Captain Lawson's wife works for the Empire. So Riley, calls his mom's like, "Oh, Mom, Dad's in trouble. Like, what happened? Was your father not complying? Look, son, just obey the Empire's laws. Do not break their rules. This is their most sacred, value law. You cannot do that." So now, Riley's okay, yeah, but Riley's playing a game. They're cutting, the Empire's cutting games off. They don't want anyone to get involved. So now, Maul's like, they're like, "We got to get out of the city." But Maul's like, "No, I need this kid. She's strong with the Force. She's someone that I can, train and bring to the dark side. She could be my apprentice." But then we come to know that Captain Lawson was interrogated by one of the Inquisitors. And I just say the Inquisitor in the show was dope. The lightsaber. So he comes to Captain Lawson and say, "Tell me everything you know." And he's like, "Well, I appear that why you were the last one to survive." So now, like, they're like, the captain of the police force is dead. And, and then one of Commander Blake is like to Two Boots, "Oh, take those boots off. That's protocol. That you're a cop. Should I turn you off, droid?" So Two Boots is like, he's kind of make his decision, like, should I really call them? Should I not call them? But now, Captain Lawson, he's free to go, but knowing that the captain is dead. But then as you go more further, now like the Inquisitor calls in the 11th brother. And now, like, now it's getting serious. Now, they find Maul's hideout. Maul and the Inquisitor are like fighting on the train. They're searching for Devin. They separate, but then Riley gets kidnapped by the Empire, sending him to the authorities. And that's when Riley meets the 11th brother. He's like, they did stuff to me. So it's like, Two Boots, I need you. Look, let Riley go. I'm gonna turn myself over. So now you're like, oh, like Captain Lawson's gonna do this. He's gonna turn himself over. And then Two Boots comes like, oh, I'm taking him to processing. And, now they meet each other. They're outside, but now they're lost to the future. So Two Boots like, oh, I'm a fugitive. Because one of the crime lords that Captain Lawson knew was like, look, I got a ship ready for you guys, but you got to leave now because we have to go. So now they're, Two Boots and all of them are escaping to get to the, Captain Lawson's friend. They're trying to get as far as they can to, get out the planet. They all, Devin, all of them are being tracked as well too. The 11th brother and the Inquisitor are going after them. But as, learning that, okay, fine, this is the, the part that now, they're in trouble. They're shutting down the planet. And so now Maul and all of them go their own separate ways. But Maul goes down this old abandoned tunnel in which the Empire found them. And one of Maul's assassins was killed by the Empire. And like one guy's like, brother. And, he gets shot because he saw Maul taking on the Inquisitor and the 11th brother in the cave. And they say, oh, the Emperor wants you dead. He's like, likewise. And he pulls down, the cave and drops it on them. But then you learn more of Maul's backstory that, like, yeah, he lost his brother. The Emperor took him in. He was a young kid. And, he's holding his leg down because it's broken. He's hurt. And now, he's like seeing all these memories, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And seeing Darth Sidious, and, he sees, Obi-Wan Kenobi from episode 1 that slit him in half because Maul has these robotic legs that he has to operate and reprocess. So it kind of hurts him, like, yeah, he's going to walk and limp. And he looks at his younger self, he's like, never again. This is never going to happen to anyone else. I promise I'm going to make sure Sidious does not come after anybody else. So now, Devin reunites with she reunites with her master and Riley. And as they come together, like, okay, well now, like what happened? Oh, Maul saved us, but we have to go, blah, blah, blah. As they run, okay, we got to get out of here. Maul is, wanted. We got to get off the planet. But then we meet a special appearance of Dryden Voss, who was in the show. Paul Bettany's character makes an appearance in this show. He's like, well, I need Maul for special, I need him for black markets deal, with having Maul on my side, I can finally, take what's mine and do what I want. So it was cool to see Dryden Voss in this, Crimson Peak, knowing that he wants to use Maul for blackmail and dealing, because he's like, oh, I can get you off the planet. Because they hide at Demas's hideout. They say, oh, they're not going to look for us here. So Maul is like, he puts this vision in Devin. It's like, oh, there's a lady with a statue we must go to, and Captain Lawson's like, oh, these guys are double crossers. We shouldn't trust them. He's like, look, I'm trying to get you guys, off the planet. So if you trust me, we can get out of here together. We can escape. We can walk away, and none of this can ever happen. So now they're okay, fine, we'll work together. But of course, Captain Law's like, so much for stealth. They were, messing up the factory. He's like, this is the way out to your shipping port and all this type of stuff. So now, they're in this old ruin, and long behold, in the jungle, you finally hear everyone. Darth Vader makes his first appearance in this show. And Darth Maul said, who are you? What are you? And they say, the Dark Lord. And he is fighting him. He is doing everything he can. But knowing that Darth Vader is that powerful to beat, he couldn't beat him. But, Master Daki and they took on the 11th brother and the Inquisitor. They were fighting this ruin. But then Maul, who's being very sneaky, was like, he sees Zevon find one of the 11th brothers, and then Maul pushes Udaki in Darth Maul's path. And as he does that, Master Darth Maul kills Master Udaki. You're like, oh no. Because Master Udaki's like, look, Jedi cannot feel in rage and anger. If you give into that rage and anger, that's what makes you go to the dark side. Don't be drawn to that side. If you're going to get drawn to that side, you will be lost. So she's getting mad. She scarred one of the 11th brothers. And, Maul, he throws a lightsaber and it's red. So now you're like, oh, Devin, no. She goes to the dark side. She's like, we have to leave. And Darth Vader looks up at Dryden Voss as they go into lightspeed and away from territory. And of course, Captain Lawson sacrifices himself to get his son and Two Boots and Vario on the ship because, they had no way out. So now you're like, Dryden Voss is like, well, you better make our agreement. Yes, I've held our end of the bargain. So Devin, she's like holding that rage and anger. And she's like, all right, teach me the way. And you're like, oh my gosh, Devin has turned to the dark side of the Force. It's so much to be like, oh my gosh, like why this young kid is going to the dark side of the Force. And now Maul is going to train her as her new apprentice so that, using the Force, using your rage and anger will help you become stronger. But overall, guys, it was an incredible show. Outstanding, dope. Who knows if Maul Shadow Lord is going to get a season 2, but if it does, I feel bad for Devin. Like I said, Maul is very tricky. Like I said, he is the villain of this story. He's not the good guy. That's why Master Udaki said we will never be his ally. But my goodness gracious, guys, it was the best. It was crazy, and I'm excited. What an incredible Star Wars show. Truly the best. And like I said, I give it 100 out of 100. It was outstandingly really good. Well, that does it, to everyone. Happy Star Wars Day to you guys. I hope you guys had an awesome Star Wars Day. I hope you guys are doing great, incredible, and the best. Be awesome. Be terrific. I'll talk to you guys later. May the Force be with you. And always, you're truly the greatest Padawans, Jedi Masters, and stay away from the Sith because you're truly the greatest good people of all time. May the Force be with you always.